How do you get started as a singer? You've never taken singing lessons, you've never sung seriously before, maybe you watched a couple of YouTube videos, maybe you tried to sing one of your favorite songs, didn't go so well. How do you actually get started? Do you just dive headfirst into all the, exciting concepts you see on YouTube like performance and mixed voice and belting and distortion, all that kind of fun stuff? Or is there a simple process for getting started as a singer? Let's find out. Now, when I first work with a singer, I take them through a set of steps, basically a set of very basic goals that serve as a checklist to get a benchmark on where they're at as a singer, so I can hear really what's going on or going wrong with their voice, as well as basically getting their voice to the same point every time we work together. It's actually something I do myself every single day. You naturally have some variance in your voice. If the girls get me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be a very different day than if I, don't really do any singing, or I've got coaching later in the night. I'm working with people from Europe or something, and it's 7, 8 p.m. at night before I really start going through a warm up. It's two very different things. If you go through this kind of checklist process and you approach singing in this way, your voice actually ends up in the same state every single day, no matter when you start singing, no matter, changes or what's going on. Basically, however long it takes and whatever you have to do to tick off these goals and tick off this checklist, it's absolutely the best way to get started as a singer. It's also really great for people who've been singing for a long time as well. You've been, doing a tribute show, or you just naturally started singing for a band like I did back in the day. And you're starting to realize there's a better way. Or you've seen me wailing high stuff or whatever, or singing really low stuff, and you're like, I'd like to do that. Or maybe something's starting to go wrong, you're losing some range, whatever it is. This is a really great process to go through to get that benchmark and work out what's really going on with your voice. So the very first thing you want to do is find your head voice. Now, you kind of want to start this fairly high-ish. So I start around about, say, a G in my voice, probably an A for most singers that come my way, most guys that come my way, but we'll start at the G. We want to get that separation between head voice and chest voice, basically. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Two very different voices. Now, I know you're thinking, hang on, Keegan, you've been carrying on for years about connecting head and chest, and you shouldn't have this separation. You shouldn't be pushing chest and doing two different voices. It's all one voice, right? I've heard you say that. You're absolutely right. But again, we're just basically checking things off in our voice. We are finding our head voice first. Doesn't have to sound cool. Doesn't have to sound exciting. I'm sure it doesn't. But you need to do it, basically. So we're starting at this G here. We just find our head voice on oo and E. Ooh, E. Now, a lot of people get bogged down as to whether that's head voice or falsetto. Yes, they are two different things. Doesn't really matter for our purposes right now. Basically, they're a very similar mechanism. One has closure, one doesn't really have closure. It's more of a harmonic at the edge of the folds. Doesn't matter for your purposes. So if you feel like it's falsetto, don't stress. It's fine. What we then need to do once we've found our head voice, and I've got a video on finding head voice, the last video I just did, you can click on that if you're having trouble finding your head voice or working out what that is. Next thing we need to do is find the second formant, the bright formant in our mouth on these sounds. So instead of a hollow kind of classical kind of sound, what we want to do is the center of your tongue, where there's the dip in the center of your tongue. If you move that up and forward and you focus on the space behind your teeth, and we go for more of a French sound, like instead of ooh, more like ee. Again, it doesn't have to sound great. I'm sure it doesn't sound great, but you see I've got a really pingy sound. I'm getting that really bright sound that a lot of you guys are looking for, and I'm getting it through the vowel. This is very important because now we're ready to start connecting head and chest voice. From this point, we just basically bring it down. I've got a video on this as well if you want more detail on that. So, basically, we want to connect that, however long that takes. It might take you 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Check out the video on connecting head and chest voice. From this point, what we want to do is find our first formant, our structural formant in the back, so our R vowels, basically. So if we take an A sound, like lay or hey, whatever it is, whatever works for you, lay, and then we turn it into an R vowel, so you'll notice that the A sound has the same bright ping we just found in the front, and the R vowel actually has the bright ping in the back. We want to do this without slamming the tongue down and without, creating space. It's not how it works. We actually need a small structural space for this vowel. This kind of thing. And probably what you're going to feel is that bright sound moving back. It's not really what's going on, but if you're finding that, that's perfectly fine. What's really going on is the spaces are changing. So we've got the tongue up and forward. The space in this formant or this formant space here is small. It's also high frequency. This is a low frequency on A. And then basically as we open this space and close this space, and this kind of thing. That's really what's going on. Your brain's filling in the dots and telling you it's moving back, but you've actually got both of these sounds going on at the same time. It's just dark on an A vowel in the back, basically. Then we do the same thing. We basically take our bright sound, our bright R vowel in the back that we've just found, and we just chase that up to head voice. So you might have to start with an A first. It's totally fine. Maybe each one of these steps is going to take you a week. Pause the video, come back in a week when you got it worked out. I'm obviously just going through this pretty quickly. So, when we've got our R vowel, la. Again, just chasing that up to head voice. Not trying to impress anyone. You don't have to, make it sound good. We want to find our separation in our registers, but we want to connect through the center. Got my chest voice, got my head voice. I've got my bright formant. It's all connected now. And you can do the same thing on an A vowel as well if you like. This kind of thing. So what we want to do from this point is start really massaging our vowels. So I've got a full video on vowel modification, which you can check out down below. It's free. You can go through some vowel modification training with me. Basically, we want to start changing and shifting our space to ring out the changing frequencies within the structure of the vowel. You probably don't need to know that, but let's keep it really simple. Basically, we're starting out with a neutral space. La. As we ascend, we kind of raise and spread the soft palate a bit as we move to our mixed voice. So you probably don't notice that there, but I'm actually shifting the tone of my voice. Instead of going la and then inflating it, I'm going towards a younger tone. La. It sounds like just a continuation of the balanced tone. That's definitely a shift in my voice at that point, around about the B or the C at the first break kind of point. So what we want to do is start bridging each of these areas of the voice using all the stuff you've seen on YouTube, all the stuff you've seen on my channel, the stuff you'll see in the video down below when you click on that. And we want to start narrowing our vowel at that point as we start relying on our cry to give us the pitch. So instead of pressurizing up and getting louder and shouty, we want to start adding our cry to the sound. So, la. It shouldn't be a push or anything. I'm going it's a hard heard for now. Bright classroom voice, and then our cry, right? So imagine you've got a classroom full of kids and you're going, la, look everyone, yeah. This kind of young but assertive tone. That's what I'm going for there. And then our cry is basically just, kind of a sad, la, 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 kind of sound. La. Again, doesn't have to sound great. You're not trying to impress anyone. It's, again, just this checklist to get a benchmark on our voice. Same thing as our A vowel. We just go through our vowel shifts. A, E, I at this point. Bright, classroom voice, correct. Same thing. And again, the voice starts working in the way that I know it to work, and I start getting that familiar sense of, oh, my voice, I've found it, this kind of thing. And at this point, once you've worked through this stuff, again, I've got more detailed videos on connecting head and chest voice. We've got the vowel modification video down below. There's even a video on mixed voice if you want to kind of bridge out the center there a little bit more. We're now ready for a lot of the concepts that I guess you see pretty casually thrown around on YouTube. There's no point trying to work on your mixed voice if you haven't found the formants of your vowel or connected head and chest voice, or if you don't know the difference. There's just no point. You're going to blow out your voice. You're not going to get anything from it. Maybe you're going to be lucky and fluke it. We don't want to fluke it with our voice. We want to be totally in control of these things. Basically, that process is find your head voice or falsetto. Doesn't really matter. Find the bright forward formant on U and E. And so instead of O and U, we want to be U and E, basically bright in the mouth when the tongue's up and forward. We want to connect that with chest voice, so bring it right down. We want to find our bright formant in the back on the R vowel, so our structural formant on that sound. Connect it with head voice. Start kind of massaging out the vowels with our vowel shifts and vowel modification, all the stuff we talk about, and using our tone shifts as well. And from this point, you can then start taking, any exercise you've seen on YouTube and maybe been unable to do before. I just did a video about this, so that, the common ma, ma, ma exercise that I used to freaking hate. If you actually follow that path of the vowels and follow the path of the tone, ma, 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 ma. You get the strong mixed voice that you're looking for, but we've gone through our benchmark, checklist kind of process every single time we do this, and we get our voice in the same state every single day. You're going to make a lot more progress if you go through this first. You're going to add things to it as well. There's a couple of other sounds that I go through personally, like from my accent and things that I know I need to work on. I basically add my own little add my own little flair to this little checklist process and add different things for different students and singers that I'm working with and for different goals, this kind of thing, then you always end up at the same state every single day. So this is the absolute best way to get started as a singer if you've never sung before. I'll take you through the process again quickly in a second, as well as if you've been singing for 20 years and you just, you never really thought about this shit before and you're like, where do I get started with technique? I used to do this without it. Go through this process and you're probably going to find the voice that you used to have and something has just shifted along the way. Let's do that process again. Number one, find our head voice. You want to follow along with me, or if you want to grab a guitar or piano and do this later yourself, that's fine. Just find our head voice. This kind of really light separated sound. So it's not our chest voice, I'm not belting it, it's just head voice. We want that separation. We find our bright formant in the mouth, so the center of the tongue from the dip kind of up and forward. Make it really bright. More like a French sound, instead of ooh. We bring it down to chest voice. We work on our connection with that sound. This kind of thing. We find our bright formant in the back on the R valve. La. Connect that with head voice, really easy. Then we start kind of massaging those vowels using stuff like vowel modification and tonal intent, which I also have a video on. And we start basically getting our full voice in there while using the cry and our vowel modification shifts. La, le. And basically you can take this, you can take this as high as you want, basically. We go through that same process, La. We can go up to that higher vowel modification of oo, and then we can, go to our kind of witchy sound to get our higher range. And this is how I get to the same point every single day. When I've got coaching at all different hours, when I'm working on different things, I'm working on different styles, or I've got a recording, process or something, you get that red light fever where, that red light goes on. You're like, oh my God, I've forgotten how to sing. If you actually go through this process, in the recording studio, even down the track, you guys that are, at a bit more of an advanced level, if you chuck your headphones on and stand in the recording booth, stand in the vocal booth, and you actually go through this process, you'll find your voice within that setting. Like being in different settings is a big reason why, people fail in high stress situations, or even on stage. Go through this process on the stage you're going to be singing at. But again, the point of this video was getting started as a beginner singer. So follow that process. Take your time. Each one of these steps might take you a week, might take you 2 weeks, could take you 30 seconds like it does for me. Doesn't matter. Different days, it takes different time for me. Sometimes it takes me a couple of minutes to get my connection kind of sorted, especially if I'm up earlier in the morning and my voice is a bit lower. Sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to get the tone right, or I'm, messing something up, and that's totally normal. That's okay. No one's perfect, and the purpose of this kind of checklist benchmark thing is to get you to the same level and get you to that same point of perfection every single day, regardless of those variants in there. Has that been quick enough for you? Hope that's a good start for you. Hit that subscribe button. Check out the vowel modification training below. We've got some videos here on connecting head and chest voice, as well as mixed voice, the tonal intent video, and we're going to talk soon.